Welcome, Media Men Online. I'm Dan. This is Isaiah.
What up, what up?
We have some news, a couple little movies and games and things we want to tell you guys about. And then Isaiah's going to New York Comic Con, but we'll get to that towards the end. So we're going to start with One Punch Man, which has been gone for so long. How long did you say it was gone?
I think February 2024, I believe, is when the last chapter went up. And I don't know if we talked about it, but the story why it took so long is they weren't happy with like the last 10 chapters. I can't remember if it was the story or the art, but it was just so long since I read it. I was like, I noticed some things that were different, the way it was paced. But yeah, February 28th, 2024 is when the last chapter dropped, and then October 9th is when it returned. So, it's been a little bit.
Nearly 8 months.
So if you go into the app, it's very similar to like that one chapter they redid, but like it was completely different. Because remember when they redid that entire girl fight?
Mm-hmm.
Like they completely changed chapter. Well, they basically did that for the last 10 chapters. So that's what they had been doing is redoing and re-releasing the previous 10 chapters. Now it's funny because they would just update them in the app, so it never showed them as releasing, which is why it still shows like, oh, chapter 200 released back in February 2020, February 28th of this year. But no, they changed the last 10 chapters. So I read the new chapter. The new chapter is definitely more of it felt like an in-between filler thing just to give us something new. Because chapter 200, which was the last chapter we got, was like, hey, we have this very intense thing that happens. And then chapter 201 is like, let's go to this random side character we haven't seen in a long time and just follow some little hijinks that he's up to. But it says in the app, new chapter coming in 17 hours. So I'm like, wait a minute. So are we going to get something new?
Just like a dump of them?
Yeah, that might be what's happening. But no, it's exciting because I was rereading the last 10 chapters. Once again, just because I was like, I don't remember what changed, but I remember some of the stuff being the same, some of the stuff maybe not. I was like, I missed reading One Punch Man. I remember when it was like, whenever it would go live, I'm there to instantly read it.
Right.
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to read the new stuff yet, or?
No, and sometimes I like to build up some chapters, and I keep going back like a serial killer returning to the scene of the crime, trying to get One Punch Man chapters, but there hasn't been any, so I'll be reading that later today.
Alrighty.
What the hell do I have here? Oh, so I went and saw the My Hero Academia movie today, and I threw this in here because it looked pretty cool. So there's an anime side story on the Lord of the Rings, and the trailer was in dub. So it's by Kenji Kamiyama, and it follows this main gal here. You see,
is it coming out in theaters?
Gollum. It's coming out in theaters. You see Gollum and guys like that you would know. And the way that they introduce the trailer is by showing original scenes from the original movie. Like you see Viggo Mortenstein's character and things like that. And then it switches to anime style. No. They show him normally, and it's like, Lord of the Rings is returning to theaters. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is returning to theaters, and it's like, what are they going to do? Like an extended 7-hour version? No, and then they transition to this short anime, like this side anime story, which looks super awesome. Anything that comes out like this, like what was the the Castlevania series? It's like that was awesome. So anything like this, a series that I know when they come out with an anime version, I'm always interested, especially a movie that has a dub.
Yeah, and I'm seeing who the the anime studio that's working on it is the same studio that made Tower of God, The God of High School, but then things get a little worrying because it's the same people that worked on the Rick and Morty anime, which is pretty bad. It's just, I guess maybe that's the thing is maybe they're not working on the writing, but the Rick and Morty anime is just like the most boring, bland, uninteresting, low effort written show. Like if you thought Rick and Morty was getting bad with its newer seasons in general, the anime is like everything but worse. So, but I mean, like I know I've
Yeah.
heard really good stuff about Tower of God and the God of High School. So, you know, let's hope that it's more of those.
Yep. So we'll see.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna be talking about this really in depth next time we record because I still haven't finished the story yet. I was waiting to see if maybe like because of this reason here, but I needed to do it for the rewards and stuff. Uh, but for the 5.1 update, because of the I forget if we talked about it, but the SAG-AFTRA video game voice actor strikes that's been happening. Essentially, companies are saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
we are going to take lines of yours that you've recorded for us, and then we're going to turn them into AI voices, and you're going to get no money for it." And so they basically have been striking some of these production companies or like the studios that do the voice acting. And one of them is it's not Genshin Impact itself, but for the English dub of Genshin Impact, they go I think it's like Formosa or something recording. So Genshin Impact license or not licensed, but gets the dub done by a studio. I believe it's called Formasa, and it's different than the studios that do Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero, which is why those games aren't going to have their dubs affected because those companies aren't the ones on strike, or they're not the ones that the voice actors are striking. It's like Formosa and a few others. So Genshin Impact had its first kind of impact in that two of the characters' voices are just non-existent in the game for the English dub. It's not like you get them in a different language or anything; they're just not voiced, which is a little off-putting. But thankfully, it's only two right now, and they don't have that many voice lines compared to a lot of the other characters that are like very important in it. But I'm assuming it's because the lines that we're getting were recorded well ahead of time. Maybe these ones worked, and I'm just afraid that if this continues, it's going to kind of make the dub un, playable. Where it's like, oh, we're soon gonna just have no voice
Mhm.
actor, like no voice acting. Uh, and it really seems like with this company, not much is
Like,
progress is gonna be made because when I was looking into it, they worked on some other game, and then the voice actors went on strike, and so they went like behind the scenes subterfuge to a different like place. It was like, hey, let's get some non-union actors to work on this, and that's actually like against the law,
yeah.
I guess. Where like, they have for the way that striking works, the kind of idea of, oh, if people go on strike at Amazon, legally they can't just go and hire people to replace them. I guess that's illegal. I don't know for Amazon specifically, but like for this whole entire thing, the voice actors' rights, they aren't allowed
Right.
to um basically hired new voice actors to fill in for other voice actor roles because they are on strike. So that became a whole thing. Of course, they denied it.
Okay.
And it led to them actually going on strike against League of Legends then, because Warmoth does League of Legends. Because any game that basically released before the strike, they're like, that's fine. Um, but Genshin, that's why like Genshin, it's like okay, all the new people. So like any returning voice actor is going to be able to do their thing, I guess. It's like new people aren't going to be able to. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, no, it's
And
a little worrying for me as a person who likes doing Genshin Impact, but
fortunate.
for someone like you
Yep.
where you're way more into Star Rail, you don't have to worry about it. Different studio that is not being struck right now. So that one should be fine.
Yeah, there was the only dub voice actor who was replaced in Star Rail was Fei Xiao, and that's because she. Remember when everyone was trying to boycott Genshin for that
Yeah.
BS about the new land being blah blah blah
Yeah.
racism blah blah blah. The woman who was the Fei Xiao
Right.
voice
Oh.
actress was fired because she was supporting the strike of
So that's
Genshin.
interesting.
Oh, the
I said that's
parent
actually interesting
company
because there's a
fired her
voice
at.
actress who came out in support of the thing as well for Genshin, but as far as I know, she's still, she wasn't fired. But her character also hasn't been relevant to the game in like 2 or 3 years because she's from the very first area. So maybe that happened and none of us noticed. But yeah, no, that character I was talking about too, though, that works very well with Hu Tao. That's one on the video there. Chilonin. She's pretty cool.
Yes, she's
Yes.
the cute
But
cat
yeah.
lady there. All right, I've had this one on the
Yeah.
previews for so long, and I finally watched it. So it's a short film by the same guy, Curry Barker, who we talked about the Chair previously. So this one is just over an hour long, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think an hour ended up being the perfect length of time. I think if we tried to stretch it out a little bit further, it would have been like, all right, we pull the ripcord, let's get out. But no, it really worked. So a surprise birthday prank takes a turn for the worse when a popular social media duo must face the reality of the terrifying aftermath. They're a YouTube group, these two guys, and then they have two other people who are like their producers and things like that. They do the editing, blah, whatever. The guys play pranks on each other, the two main guys, and they keep escalating. And the cereal is spelled, one of the guys' name is Milk, and the cereal is spelled like serial killer. So it goes from harmless pranks to escalating to think that I'll try and be spoiled. I think it's a free movie. People should go on YouTube and watch it. So I'm going to try and keep it light, but the pranks on each other keep escalating, and it becomes very dangerous. So I'll leave it there, but it's very interesting. The acting is done well. It's a found footage movie. So some of the, obviously because they're playing pranks for YouTube, so there's reason for cameras to be everywhere. So some of these found footage, it's like, why do you still have a camera right here? It doesn't make any sense realistically. But this one is specifically because the two guys are pranking each other, and it goes horribly wrong. The acting is done very well. And Curry Barker, I believe, is the main guy as well. One of the two, I think he plays Milk, pretty sure. Let me take a look at him. Yeah, he plays Milk. He's also in a ton of like this random YouTube channel where he does a bunch like these little skits and things. It's really interesting. But I would recommend going and watch this. It's on forget what the channel's called. It's like Bad Idea or something along those lines. I'm gonna look it up. But
I did not
have
get a
you
chance
seen
to
this
see
one?
this one. But maybe I'll check it out when I'm on my train ride or something. I got to talk more about the stuff I'm gonna check out when I talk about my NYC trip. But this might make it to the list.
Okay, there it is. It's called That's a Bad Idea, and as of now, Milk and Cereal has over 1 million views. So I would recommend it. Maybe we can do a spoiler filled review, but it's very interesting. Let's move on and talk about
Terrifier 3. I forget before I start talking about this. Have you seen the first two? You've seen the first one.
the first one.
You didn't end up seeing this.
I don't mind spoilers.
You're not. Okay.
I'm not going to watch them.
What was your opinion on the first one? Yay or nay?
I thought it was interesting, but the gore was a little too much for my taste when he split that girl down the middle.
So
like, all right,
the first movie for me, I actually like a lot. I think it is a very hard movie to watch. It is very mean-spirited. But I think what makes the first movie and all three of them work is how lighthearted it is as well with the main killer. which is Art the Clown. And a lot of it comes down to the guy who plays him, which is David Howard Thornton, who actually also played the mean one. I think you saw that movie, right? The Grinch one. He played the mean
Yeah.
one in that. Uh, like, because he's more of like a character actor. Like, he doesn't talk really ever. It's more about like the performance, and he is definitely what
Mhm.
sells all of these movies. I think for the second movie, so the first movie was made on a budget of like $10,000, by the way, and made like millions and millions. Second movie had like a slightly larger budget, maybe
Yeah.
like it was hundreds of thousands of dollar budget, made tons of money as well. And then the third movie had about $1 million budget, and let's just say it was the best clown movie that came out for the weekend. Beat a different one that came out. You and I were talking about this, but this clown movie beat the clown movie sequel to $1 billion movie somehow. But I
Yeah.
actually, for Terrifier 3, to get to this one, liked it quite a bit. I think I liked it more than Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2, the ending just drags on way too long. I felt like uh it just feels like it takes forever for the conclusion to wrap up. And it focuses more on the story, which isn't bad, but isn't as interesting as the Art the Clown antics. And I think this third movie does a marriage of like the first and second movie, where it's like the parts where you just see Art just doing his thing. And then it also has an equal amount of this story stuff. And one works way better than the other. Uh, I'd say like the Art the Clown stuff in Terrifier 3 is a 10 out of 10. Story stuff is more like a 6 or 7 out of 10 type thing. It does feel like strange enough because I said, oh, the second movie, which was about 2 hours and 18 minutes long, how it stretched out. This movie feels like it's too short or like it jumps around a bunch. And I think it's because they're like, hey, we have to have the story stuff, but we also have to stick in all the art stuff. So we're gonna, not that there was none in the second one, but I felt like it was a lot more focused on the story, even with the art stuff, and not just these random cuts to him doing, his killing things. Uh,
By story, do you mean like
no.
what
So
he
in the
is,
second
like what
movie, they
he's
introduce
actually?
a character, and for the basics, without spoiling it too much for people who haven't seen any of these, essentially he is this super evil force in the world, and the final girl is like the world's counterbalance, this very good force, and they come to clash where it's like she's fated to be this, where it's like, hey, you're supposed to be this super woman type person that has to confront and beat Art the Clown. Uh, and it's like, her life, her family. Uh, that's kind of what the story stuff I'm talking about. Like, I think like the first movie has a story in quotations, but it's more about just like this, it's just about Art the entire time, just hunting, just tracking down these girls and killing them slowly and dealing with all these people. It just kind of follows his perspective
Mhm.
basically for the entire movie, this one isolated thing. Whereas for like 2 and 3, it cuts between the art stuff and this girl stuff. um and yeah, I think that it worked better than the second movie because of the art stuff. And it is also, if you think, by the way, the first movie is very gory, the second and third movies are like, they make it look like a PG-13 movie, because I believe these movies are unrated, like, and they're released in theaters unrated. There's no way that these movies are rated R with how gory they get and how like disgusting they are.
No.
I also think it's really cool that we're able to get an unrated movie in theaters, and there's actually like signs outside the Regal Theater where it's just like, hey, this movie is very violent and very disgusting. If you have any problems, please leave the theater or find a staff member for assistance. Where it's like, yeah, they try to make sure that they got all their bases covered. That if somebody walks into this movie, that they're not liable for what they might be seeing, because it is disgusting. It is, but also I love these movies. Very practical. Now I'm sure there's some CG elements that like help out with what we're seeing. Maybe there isn't, but it looks beautiful. Everything looks real, and even though it's just like, oh, that kind of looks like a dummy head or something, it actually looks like it's physically there though, and them interacting with it and like sawing it off, and that makes it even more visceral, I feel like, than just having like a CGI head or something that looks fake.
Nope.
Like it's not even there.
And
No.
yeah,
He's
pedo as
just
well,
like
or no?
he's just kind of like a demon. Like he's just straight evil.
Good.
I wouldn't say he's a pedo or anything like that because he's not. Like think of him like the Joker, where it's just like who he is as a person doesn't really matter. It's this force of nature that's just pure evil. That's it. Because I'll just say they're not afraid to kill kids in this movie. They,
I
but I
heard
mean,
about that one.
that's just who he, like he just kills. Doesn't care who, doesn't care anything about what you are. There's no reason for it. He just does it. But it is really cool. They do get some horror icons in this movie, like Clint Howard. I can't remember the name of the movie. He plays like an ice cream truck serial killer in a movie. But he is in it, and then they had Tom Savini, who's like a legendary makeup artist or makeup effects artist. Like basically think of any like 80s horror movie with great special effects, he probably worked on it. But yeah, I'll stop talking about this movie. I actually do very
Nice.
highly recommend it. I think it's great that this guy, Damien Leone, went from, hey, I have a $10,000 movie I want to make. He started a Kickstarter for it, didn't reach his goal, but still ended up making a movie because he started off as a special effects person. So he's like, I'm just gonna do all special effects myself, I guess, on my dime. And he's been able to turn this into a franchise. And I can't express enough how good Art the Clown is. Like he's just fantastic. That's why it's like he's doing these really evil, mean-spirited, despicable things, but he's played in such a funny way that you'll kind of find yourself laughing, and you might think, I'm a little sadistic, I guess, maybe for laughing at this, but he just makes it funny. It's I can't recommend these movies enough. Sure, I'm not as hot on the second movie, and I think the third movie has some of the problems from the second movie as well. But what really works in these movies, and to be honest, the reason you go to these movies, which is like the gore and special effects and the kills, that's what matters the most, and that's what is firing on all cylinders all the time. But yes, very disgusting.
Scene for me. So this series is a very gory, disgusting series, but that is the point. And unlike other people who think everything should be for everyone, I recognize that this is not for me. I understand the appeal, but I don't want it to be toned down in terms of the goriness to benefit me to the detriment of people who love this stuff. So if you're into it, go see it. If you're not, well,
I just want to say one funny moment about that movie that has to do with like work. I was at work one day and I was down in the ER. Somebody's bleeding out, and I just look and I'm just like, that looks like fake blood. And when I was watching this movie, I thought that looks like the same fake blood.
Oh my
God. It must look like real blood because I thought real blood looked like fake blood, and this looked just like that stuff. So you know what? They did a good job. Yeah, no, it was crazy.
Oh damn! All right,
you and your
before I start talking about this movie, look at this damn rating. Look at the general rating of this damn movie.
How's it a 1.3?
2,300. Unreal. The Mousetrap 2024. Jamie Bailey is the director. You sure you want your name on this, Jamie? Let's see what else you've done. Not much. The movie's about a girl who works at a Chuck E. Cheese, Dave & Buster's type place. Oh, it's called an amusement arcade. The damn thing has one of those small roller coasters in, so it's more upscale. But she has to stay late to work a shift. But it turns out it's her friends that are throwing the party for her. And they rented out the whole building for her. In the meantime, there is a serial killer guy dressed as Mickey Mouse. Okay. Now, he's partially supernatural, possibly has possessed the manager who was supposed to leave by jumping out of the old style projector movie that he was watching of Steamboat Willie. It's all very stupid. So all the characters are Canadian. So like the main guy he's a hockey player. He likes to punch people, but he plays hockey, so he's really tough. I'm not making fun of hockey players because they are tough. They're tougher than our sports players. But the whole thing was like super Canadian, so they're all like very, very annoying. You know, not just the accents, but their mannerisms and their everything. But the point, so I bailed on this movie probably with 20 minutes left because there's only so much bees and cringe you can take before you just turn the damn movie off. One thing, the main girl was actually pretty good, but that's it. Everyone else was really, oh God, I'm just cringing thinking about it. So I just want to tell you the point where I bailed. They figure out that the Steamboat Willie character, this Mickey Mouse guy, is affected by the flashlight, but only if the flashlight is in that blinking mode, which I guess is similar to that projector that he came from. And the main girl goes,
Oh my gosh,
yes.
they stole that from FNAF.
Oh, really?
That is how you stop Foxy in FNAF 2. You
Ah,
have to blink the flashlight at him, and it confuses him or something. That's how you stop him.
God.
You just have to blink the flashlight at him.
So
Yeah, it's like, oh, just having it on is bad. Just having it off is bad. You have to blink it.
yeah. So the
That's
girl
funny.
shouts because the Mickey Mouse killer guy is gone. The girl shouts out, "Okay, let's play a game of hide and seek. Here's the rules." And I turned it off. That was the cringiest damn thing. My skin's crawling right now just thinking about it. So do not watch this movie. There's nothing enjoyable about it. The main girl's all right, but I mean, put it this way, if she was the main, like the final girl in a Halloween, like Halloween 6 or whatever, she'd be perfectly fine. But this movie is so bad. I don't know why you have to go like with the supernatural crap. You could just have a dude that's obsessed with Mickey Mouse and then, the other thing, the whole movie is told from the perspective of a girl that survives. And it's in a discussion with these Canadian cops who are like super, they're not woke, but they're afraid that she's woke. So they're like asking her all these like, what are your pronouns and all that? Oh, it's so bad. It's such a bad movie. 1.3 is way too high for this one. It's not even the worst movie I've seen this year.
So better or worse than the first? I was gonna say better or worse than the first Honey and Blood.
Worse. Yeah. Worse. Yep.
Worse. Wow.
I made it through Blood and Honey, and I could not get through this movie. It's so bad. Okay. I wanted to end my movie discussions on this one because I love My Hero Academia. This movie is super enjoyable. I would say it's probably my second favorite My Hero Academia movie behind the first one. I think the first one is perfectly done in terms of how you can do an anime movie and just the overall enjoyment of it.
Really good.
Yeah, it's so much fun. But this movie is about so if you remember, if you think back, and I'll keep it spoiler friendly here. If you think back to, remember when All Might beats the crap out of All for One? Yeah, All for One.
Yeah, that's where the whole "you're next."
Yeah, and
comes from.
He points to Deku saying it's your turn, whatever. But there's a guy, a villain who is watching the broadcast, because if you remember, there were news people there and everything. And he thinks that All Might's talking to him. So his whole thing is to take up the mantle of All Might. And by doing so, he makes himself look like All Might. He turns himself into, like, it's even done by Chris Sabat. I'm truly curious if in the Japanese version, the same actor, the same voice actor does All Might and the new All Might. I would be very curious, but let's see if it says here. No, oh well.
Just showing all the Japanese voice actors. Yeah.
So the movie's very good. They do a great job. I was just, my wife and I saw this. I was talking to her about it after. She's like, oh, what did you think? I really enjoyed the fact that it's not Dragon Ball, right? Where Goku's the guy that always saves the day. This movie focuses on all the characters, which is what My Hero Academia is about. You get, obviously you see on the poster, Endeavor's in it, Hawks, you get all the characters you know and love. There's a ton of funny lines with my boy Sticky Balls, Mineta. He had me laughing. Bakugo has me laughing. It's a lighthearted movie that has some dark and emotional beats to it, and I really enjoyed it. I know you're going to probably see this, so I'm going to leave spoilers for everything out of it, but
I just feel like the My Hero hype has kind of like really died down these past couple of years.
I do think, however,
I just don't hear people talking about it anymore.
No, but the movie aspect, I think that they could do movies with these little side stories for a long time.
Oh, I'm sure they will keep doing this. Yeah.
All right, let's move on here.
Down to down. Pretty sure we talk about this like every other week.
Yep.
So I'll keep it short. But I've seen the first 2 episodes of the anime at this point now. Have you watched any of the anime yet?
No.
Okay. So first thing I'll say, the opening, I've been hearing like, oh, it's a bop, it's super hype, it's amazing. And I turn it on, I'm like, I kind of don't like this. But I think I went into it with the wrong expectations, because like the second time after a week had gone by and I watched the second episode, I was like, all right, I don't mind this so much, because it's doing its own thing. It's the same people who did the natural opening. I do think when it's the non-action part, some of the animation is a little rough looking. And I think it's just very noticeable because my brain is going to the manga, which is one of the best looking mangas out there, in my opinion. Just like the way that it will mix like this very unique, where you could say, oh, not well done art style, but no, it's like super detailed, and like very specific with the way they animate things. But that's like very rare, and especially because the action is like 10 out of 10. Like every time it feels like, okay, all the budget is going into the action sequences. So sometimes for the walking and talking sequences, the facial animation can be a little weird looking for a moment, and that's it too, where it's just like, oh, it looks like for this frame they linger on with this character's face and reaction, it looks a little weird. But I mean, it's more dawn to dawn. I have a friend that I'm watching it with who has never read it, and he's very intrigued by it so far. They've only done 2 episodes, so they're not far into it, but I am excited, and I can say that besides like those little tiny nitpicks, which they're just nitpicks, it is a very good adaptation, and I hope this becomes the next big thing.
Nice. All right, this one I watched on a kind of a whim, called Teacup, and it's on Peacock exclusive. Now, I'll read the quick overview and give you my thoughts on what we're seeing. Trapped on a farm in rural Georgia, easy for me to say, a group of neighbors, it's spelled neighbors with a U, so a British person wrote this, must put aside their differences and unite in the face of mysterious and deadly threat. Okay, this series is a mashup of many different genres seemingly out of the gate. First, from possibly alien possession to spiritual, maybe a witch or a ghost of some kind. And then there's this dude with the mask who draws a blue line around the circumference of the farmhouse that they're in. If you step outside the blue line, we have no idea why. We don't know what's happening. Who is this creepy dude? But they show a dog who, like this rabid dog that's going after the guy who like dodges it and it goes past the blue line. And it like instantly melts and turns itself inside out. So they're very vague on what's happening. The main kid, the little boy, he goes off into the woods at one point and gets possessed by this one. There's a whole lot going on, and it seems like it's a Lost type situation where you kind of get bits and pieces as you go. Because after the first episode, I watched the first two. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I thought it was going to be the trailer made it seem like it was a serial killer, which I thought, I'm like, okay, I'm down for that, maybe Dexter type situation. Speaking of Dexter, Hannah McKay from Dexter season 7 and 8 is the main gal. Yvonne Strahovski.
Oh, I think she was in. Yeah, I think she was in 24 or something.
And what's funny about her is her name's Maggie. In Dexter, her fake name, so she's Hannah, but when she goes on the run after she's caught by the police, her fake name is Maggie. So it's a little piece there for you from a guy who's seen Dexter way too much. The other thing about this movie that makes it hard to recommend, I keep calling it a damn movie. The other thing about this series makes it hard to recommend is that it has very Lifetime feel to it. Lifetime channel. It has like that corny like drama between two husband and wife couples. It has just like this really, really corny feel around it. The thing is, if you're to watch this show, and I can't recommend it to anyone because it's so weird, but if you're going to try it, you got to give it at least 2 episodes. The first episode is just so out there that you don't really know what to do. So that's my spiel. If you try it, stick it out for 2. DuckTales. Oh my God.
I was gonna say the other thing I recognized Yvonne from is she's also in Mass Effect trilogy as Miranda. Yes. DuckTales. So you might be thinking, oh, like if for anybody who doesn't know the DuckTales, they're probably like, oh, the not original DuckTales, probably bad or something, right? However, for anybody who knows me, I like Gravity Falls quite a bit. I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best kids show ever made because it is a show that is not just a good show for kids, but it is a very entertaining show for adults. And in fact, I'd say at times is probably aimed at adult more than a kid for some of the stuff. And this show, DuckTales, has the same exact vibe. They're both made by Disney, which I think Alex Hirsch, who created Gravity Falls, had a hand in this one as well, though he wasn't the creator or director. But it has very, very good writing, very fun characters, very fun episodic nature to it, just like Gravity Falls, but with this very interesting and engaging mystery behind it all. Now, I haven't even finished the first season yet. I've been off and on with the show. Like, I think I started it probably 3 or 4 years ago. I watched a couple episodes, but I didn't have Disney Plus at the time, so it was just like the free episodes I had on YouTube. But then a friend of mine, we had finished watching something, we're trying to find something to do, and I was like, hey, I know this DuckTales show, I really liked it, let's throw it on. And so we've been watching it off and on, and yeah, it's very good. It's got David Tennant in it as Scrooge McDuck, and he's very excellent with that. And then Ben Schwartz, who you might recognize as the voice of Sonic, he's one of the nephews. But I mean, like, all the cast is very recognizable. It's funny. Bobby there, I can't pronounce his last name, I think Moynihan. You probably would recognize him. He's on SNL a lot, but it's just like, why do they have that picture with the beard? He doesn't look recognizable at all with the beard. But yeah, they're all very good. It's very entertaining, and for anybody who likes Gravity Falls, and like you're like, oh, I wish there was more Gravity Falls. It's not Gravity Falls, but it is a very good thing to kind of scratch that itch, I'd say.
Awesome.
Surprisingly so. And like my friend I showed it to, who, because I never watched the original DuckTales, my friend I showed it to, who watched the entirety of the original DuckTales, likes this show a lot too. It's going for something completely different, which I think is good, because it has the essence of the original DuckTales, but it's trying to go for a different approach. So it's not trying to just recreate that or try to be a better version of that. It's trying to do its own thing.
And the original DuckTales has one of the greatest intro theme songs of all time. So check that out.
Yeah. They of course they have it like remastered for this one, but I still think it's great. It's still the same song too, and I sing along to it almost every single time because it's so catchy. Just the song in general, it's great.
Yeah. All right, every video game is
already. Okay, so I always try to bring a YouTube video / essay that I've watched to each one of these. This is one of the ones I did. Here, now I've been watching the Act Man for a long time, and what I really like is he's very similar to me, where both sides hate the guy because, sometimes he'll make a video where it's just like, hey, SJWs are ruining gaming, but then, he'll talk about how all this other stuff, like with this video, some of the people on the other side are kind of really stupid and cringe, where like somebody put together this list of like every woke game and like the wokeness of it. And you'll get into it, and it's like, oh, Gears of War Gears of War 2 or something is woke because there's a black person in it or something like that's how petty it gets with like what makes it woke. Or it's like, oh, is there slight LGBT representation? It's woke. And kind of missing the whole point. Woke has kind of become the new, racist, where it's like people just use the word now for everything, so it's lost all meaning. But it was just a very entertaining video going through just like how kind of stupid some of the people on the other side. We usually are on here goofing on the stupid people on the left and the liberals and whatnot. But there's a lot of stupid people on the right and the conservatives, and this is one of the videos kind of going into that. But yeah, the Act Man usually, like he gets like people hate him on both sides because they say, oh, you're a fence sitter and stuff. It's like, no, he's like me. There's some stupid stuff on both sides. I'm gonna make fun of them when they're supposed to be made fun of. So that's basically all the video is, but it's a very entertaining, fun watch. I like his content a lot. He's a big Halo fan as well. So if you like Halo, he's got a ton of videos on that. He's the one that I watched because I refused to watch the Halo show. His like episode by episode breakdown was very entertaining for the show. Yeah. All right. As I kind of mentioned previously, talking about 5.1 for Genshin, I've been going through the story. I still think Fontaine, but that we're not getting the full story here. It's just chapters 3 and 4 they released with 5.1. Where I am right now, kind of dark. I'll be talking more about the overall like chapters 3 and 4 once I finish it, but I'm trying to get it done before I go to New York City because Genshin is a much harder game to play on like the tablet than Star Rail. So I was like, I'm getting all my Genshin stuff done now, like all the story and reward stuff I need to do. So I'll talk more about that once I've completed it tonight, and we'll talk about it next time. Yeah, that's kind of it. I'm just getting around to it now. I think it released about like a week and a half ago, though. Yeah, there's a new character. All right, and then I got New York Comic Con coming up. I'm leaving tomorrow for it. That's why we wanted to, not in so much rush, but like get this done now because we won't be able to record again this week. There's a lot of cool stuff I'm going to be doing there. But the big thing that's more focused on this podcast is the stuff I do while I'm waiting in line. I usually download a ton of manga. And so I've been behind on Witch Watch. I've been behind on Sakamoto Days. I'm going to catch up on those. But then I'm also going to be reading all of, I believe it's Kagurabachi, but it's like the new like top manga. Like everybody's talking about it, how it was really good. So I was like, I did that for Sako. I read like 3 manga actually last trip. I read Lusa Samurai, Sakamoto Days, and
Was
there's
it
one more
Mashal?
that I can't remember now. It wasn't Mashal because Mashal I was reading way beforehand. Blue Box. I read all 3 of those and got 100%. Like I started from having never read them at all to being completely caught up throughout the entire trip. It was like 300 some odd chapters. It was a little insane.
Wow.
But yeah, no. So I'm gonna download a ton of manga, but I also from Netflix and a couple other streaming services I can download episodes of TV shows. So I am going to probably be watching some of those. I think I have I can't remember the Japanese name for it. It's like Mushiso Tensei, but Jobless Reincarnation is like the
Yeah,
subtitle for
Mushoku
it.
Tensei.
I wanted to watch that for Mushoku Tensei. That's it. I've been hearing good stuff about it. I've never seen it before, so I think I'll watch that. Um, and then I'll probably find something else to watch. I think last time I caught up on the entirety of Attack on Titan's final seasons, part 1 and 2. But yeah, no, I'm Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I want to watch Cyberpunk Edge Runners on the train and stuff. But I remember I was watching that last year and I popped it up and there's like boobs like immediately and I'm like, well, can't watch this in public.
Be warned, Mushoku Tensei is similar to that. So
Does it have like street nudity?
I can't remember if it's like straight up nudity, but it's extreme etchy. So
I was gonna say I feel like it's like Food Wars where it's like it's very etchy but not like like Cyberpunk because it's on Netflix and it's like actually rated mature, doesn't air on TV, has like full on like nipples and like hair down there you see and stuff.
All right. My final 2 are Silent Hill 2, the remake. And I already started this one. The game looks very good. The controls are a bit wonky. Immediately when I started playing, they didn't feel intuitive, so I went into the controller menu, which you can do, and swap some controls around, and then it felt a lot better. The game looks great. It plays good. But you're heavily shrouded in fog at all times, just to be warned. And it does hold your hand a bit, but when you first get into the little town, into Silent Hill, you're kind of just like, go ahead, which I did enjoy. So I was able to explore and kind of get a lay of the land. Even though I missed the opening, like the little cutscene that showed, it angled the camera up to the building where I was supposed to go. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything, and just turned right and ran down the street. So it's enjoyable so far.
Have you played the original?
I played the original Silent Hill 1. I never played Silent Hill 2. So I don't have a active comparison. But for people getting into this one, you don't need to have played Silent Hill 1. You don't need to have watched anything. They're 2 separate stories. It's kind of like Final Fantasy in that way. It just...
More like, like an anthology.
Yeah. And
I think it's like, very similar motifs and ideas and same technical location, but even then that's kind of not true.
Yeah. What I wanted more from a game like this is you can break some windows and go into some houses, and you can go into a good portion of the businesses. But if you're going to make a game like this, just make everything interactable. Now, if you want to have, some places boarded up so it's not just people wandering for hours, but it's in a confined location. This town is like 2 blocks long. Just let people explore. Like there are some windows you smash and you can jump in, but there are other windows you swing your little you have like a wooden plank with nails attached. It's a very awesome weapon, but it does not. It doesn't even break the window. You just swing through it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just let it
I
happen.
feel like that's Konami for you. That's why. Like, so I've never played. The only Silent Hill game that I've played is PT. But I've watched a streamer play through the entirety of Silent Hill 2, and I'm interested if they keep this. But like, you'll go into a hotel, and there's like every single door, and you can interact with every single door, and basically every single door is like it's locked, you can't get in. And so like he's conjuring as like this is just like checking locked door simulator because you just check like 100 doors and then maybe one of them will open. But like you can interact with every single door. It's just only one of them actually opens. Which is frustrating on the opposite end there because it's like, okay, everything's interactable, but now I just feel like I'm checking every single door, and most of the time it does nothing. So I'm interested. I don't know if I'll play Silent Hill 2. I have such a large backlog of games. I mean, just even on like the screen there, Dead Space and Resident Evil 4, I still need to play.
Well, if you
Alan
decide you
Wake
want to
2 as
try
well.
it, I have it physically. So, all right, and then
Yeah, I might see if I can watch somebody stream it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does look fun.
Yeah.
I've heard good stuff.
For sure. And then my last thing, Metaphor
This game.
Refantasia, which is done by Atlas, creators of Persona, especially 3 through 5. And the game looks really good. I don't know much about it in terms of story. I own the game. I haven't put it... Well, I put it into the PlayStation download. I haven't started it yet because I've been working on Silent Hill 2. So this one I'm going to get into in the next 5 days before I have to go back to work. But it looks like a lot of fun. It's obviously got high praise by both users and critics alike, which is a good sign. I pay more attention to the user score than I do the critic score, but when they're both hand in hand. Alrighty, so that'll do it for us, and I think that's it, yeah. So we will catch you guys later.
Yep. Peace.